Welcome to the only place where real, raw, and vulnerable conversations happen with IFBB Bikini Pros to give you an inside look at their struggles, strategies, mindset, passions, and all of life beyond the stage. This podcast is made to inspire, motivate, and remind competitors and the average gym goer that even the most extreme lifestyles and elite athletes have their ups and downs. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm your host, Celeste Rains-Turk, and now it's time for the Confessions of a Bikini Pro podcast. Today, we are speaking with a Masters competitor who earned her pro card at the Teen Collegiate and Masters National Championship in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in July of this year, 2021. In her rookie year of competing in the NPC, actually, and before earning her pro card, she had done 2 regional and 3 national shows. She's a mother and a wife who has her bachelor's in business management and is a practicing dental hygienist in Texas while growing her online lifestyle, prep, and posing coaching business on the side, which we're definitely going to talk about. And she has a passion for making enjoyable macro-friendly meals. And soon she'll be releasing her very own cookbook, which I have got to see, which is awesome of her to share. So I can't wait for you guys to get your copy because it's going to be worth it. And I'll make sure I put the link to that in the show notes. But without further ado, let's welcome Christy Brown. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Celeste, for having me on.
You are so welcome. It is my pleasure. And as you know, I got to ask if there's anything you do or ritual you have right before your heel hits the stage.
Yes, so absolutely. I do have a little bit of a ritual, I guess. I'm on the team Bear Aesthetics. So anybody on that team kind of knows our team ritual is basically our pump up food with our Reese's and our pickles and our salt. And then my husband has been very, I guess I've been blessed that he's been able to go to every single show that I've been in. So knowing that he's out there, I usually either will text him or call him. And I basically am just like, here I go, like, see you on the other side. I love you. And that's it. And then right before I step on stage, when I'm standing there in line and I look at the judges, I just kind of mentally just kind of like zone everyone out. And I look out there at, at Tyler and Sandy and Attila, and I'm like, oh, hello, friends. They're my friends. And I just will constantly remind myself, hey, I'm just going out there to see my friends. And that kind of just helps me like calm down and not shake and not be so trembly and just be like, yeah, I'm just going out to hang out with my friends. So that's pretty much my ritual. Yeah.
Love that. I really, really love, there was a lot in there that I want to touch on, but on your last point, you said something I haven't heard before, which is that you look at the judges as friends. And I just think that's really cool because I try to envision all the judges' faces like for my whole prep. I'm like, okay. And sometimes if they're on Instagram, like I'll look at their Instagram just to know their face. But most of the times it's like, and that image is burned in your head. Like I know what those head judges look like. And I think that when you focus on that, you just get more comfortable. So when you do walk on stage, they do feel more familiar. And I love your perspective of seeing them as friendlies, not judges.
Absolutely. Well, you have to kind of manipulate that thought in your mind, because I do remember when I went out at Junior Nats, that was my first time ever being in front of Tyler. And I didn't really know what to expect. Like I've seen him on Instagram and stuff, but I didn't realize he's so like stone, so he has no emotion. And I even remember like in my individual routine, I think he yawned. And
oh my God.
I was like, oh, that's my
hilarious.
God, I'm done. I'm done. So I think that, that little bit of information about, hey, he's just your friend. He's just your friend. Like it helps my mind a lot.
Oh, that's funny. I haven't stepped on stage in front of him yet. But I study his work and like, I see he is very serious. And it's funny because I'd love to have, and people have asked me to have judges on the show before. And I'm like, I just don't want to until I'm a pro, because I don't want there to ever be like, doubt or question or stuff like that. But I'm like dying to get in their heads because I just, yeah, like they all have different expressions. Like Sandy's always smiling. I don't know if you had that
Yes.
experience. So she's always happy.
Oh yeah.
Tamer and Tarek are definitely like a mix, more serious, I'd say. But anyway, let's talk about what you said with regard to the Reese's salt, pump up pickles, all that, because this is like very interesting little combo for your pump. So what is the thought process behind that, and how has it helped you since implementing it?
I mean, it helps me basically because I get to eat candy. Like,
yeah, that's really
I love it. And I have I love food. So it's kind of our team, like the team that I belong to, which is Bear Aesthetics. That's kind of our go-to, and he will adjust that, I know, based on like each athlete. Some of us get more, some of us get less. But I know that the salt helps to pump up, your muscles a little bit more. And that just, I don't really know much about the science behind the chocolate, other than the fact that it just helps your mind. Like, I think it maybe is more like for euphoria, like, yeah, I'm getting to eat this chocolate right now. And I know that the carbs and everything is all put in there strategically. I know that there's a lot of other coaches that will always recommend, rice cakes with peanut butter and honey on it and stuff. And Dylan does give that as an option, but I would love to see the percentage of the athletes that would choose that option over Reese's. I mean, that's kind of brain dead, but I know it. And the timing makes a big difference as well, because he knows, when we're about to step on, he knows how much pump up we're going to be doing. And that's his little method. And I actually kind of take that method with my own clients, and I kind of prescribe the same thing to them because I think it works.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like that unique approach is important. Like everyone is going to be different. I was just talking to one of my coaches, Ingrid, yesterday, and we were talking about how like some girls maybe will not pump up properly or look like they pumped up properly because they didn't eat well or they weren't fed well into their show. And like for me, like there hasn't been many shows where I like fall flat. So like my coach doesn't have to continuously feed me leading into onto the stage. But I've been at shows with some of my teammates where they're like constantly feeding them and having them eat because like they are that way. So
absolutely,
it is interesting.
And on the flip side of that, if you're depending upon your pump up, that tiny little amount that the pickles and the salt and the Reese's, you're depending on that to, fill you out and make you look bomb on stage, then yeah, you haven't done enough leading up
exactly.
To,
like you might need point. Like potatoes, and you might need more rice cakes and like actual food, which
exactly.
You can definitely see a difference too. And I know there's been times where I'm like, oh, I don't know how I was looking, or you look different based on what you ate. And I just love that we can always experiment too. And you're coaching now, which is cool. And I'd love to hear more about what inspired you to start coaching, and like what is it that your approach is with competitors or lifestyle clients?
Yes, I love that you asked me this. So I have been doing dental hygiene for 21 years, and I refer to it, me and my husband, we have a couple of side hustles, and what we always refer to as our normal 9-to-5s, we refer to those as our W-2s, because those,
I love that.
Those pay the bills. So my W-2 I've been doing for 21 years, and really just started competing. Obviously, like this is my rookie year. I've been weightlifting and bodybuilding for about 8 to 9 years, but then started competing this year. And I guess what encouraged me to go this route is it's a huge passion. Anybody that starts talking to me about teeth, I mean, yeah, that's cool, but I'll change the subject real fast because I'm not super, super passionate about that. But if you're going to talk to me about fitness, about nutrition, about how it ties into emotional balance and lifestyle and flexibility and freedom, then you're going to get me rolling for like hours. And I just realized that I can help and take that knowledge and help other girls. I really like girls that fall in the same like age group as I am, who are trying to be moms, who are trying to, live life and find some balance and not live on a fad diet routine. So when I found out that I know how to do it, I've been taught well so many times over the years that I can teach others well. I have a really good teaching style. I'm pretty empathetic, and just because I've gone through so many things, so I feel like I can relate to pretty much everybody when it comes to learning how to count macros, how to live their life with balance. As far as competitors go, first time competing was extremely stressful. The first time I stepped on stage, I did well, but I was not prepared. I was not with Dylan. I was with a different coach. I was not prepared. And when I'm saying not prepared, like my physique, I was prepared. I was, totally ready to go. That coach that I had, he had me looking good, and my food was good, everything. Mentally, I had no idea what I was doing. And I am very type A. I really need everything laid out for me. Like, okay, at this point, you're going to need to do this. At this time of day, you need to do this. And I need just someone to hold my hand and kind of walk me through the process. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's lacking a lot of times for first-time competitors. And if a first-time competitor has a bad experience, then they're going to give up and they're not going to keep going. And it's such a fun thing to compete. It's definitely a privilege, and it's so much fun. And if you have somebody that's kind of taken the pressure off of you and can kind of hold your hand and you basically just close your eyes and let your coach lead you and guide you and tell you, be on stage at this point, you need to stay right here, you need to stand right here. Okay, it's time to pump up, it's time to do this. Now you need to go here. Then it takes so much pressure off of the whole process, and you have the ability to just trust the process, and I know that we say that a lot of times, just trust the process, but that's just saying it. If you actually trust the process, then it's way less stressful for you. So I like that I can offer that to first-time competitors, especially. I know how scary it was. So I have guides that I give them. I'm constantly available to them. I try to make it to all of the shows, especially if they're local to me. So I can be there every step of the way, and I want them to feel more or less like I'm their friend, and less that I'm just like a coach to a big team sitting there taking photos to put on Instagram,
Yes, unfortunately, that does happen. That does happen to girls. And it's easy too when you're a first-time competitor to get so overwhelmed and make a big deal out of things that as you compete more, you realize are not a big deal.
Not a big deal.
Yeah. Your tan, your first day tan, if you mess it up just a little, it's not ruined. Little things like that caused me so much stress at my first show. And it's oh my gosh, if only I had known. And I think when you are a first-time competitor, some people will say, oh, prep yourself, but it's important to know, I think, to have someone who's guiding you to make the absolute most of the experience so you can really figure out and know if you want to continue.
Absolutely. And I think that that's one thing I was going to put in is that there's a lot of people that don't have coaches, but they just say, well, I'm going to just try it out. I think that is the biggest mistake ever for any competitor really is, I think, get a coach. I'm a coach and I have a coach, get a coach because you need to be able to hand over your stress, your worries, you need to be able to hand over that anxiety to someone else and them just tell you what to do. I mean, it makes the experience so much less stressful if you have a coach.
Yeah. And to that point, if you're working with a coach in the beginning, you're probably going to have maybe a better start than you would if you just took your own approach where maybe you think you need to cut calories too much or do too much cardio. Whereas maybe because it's your first time, you don't have to go to the same extremes that you might see other maybe longer time competitors or girls who've been doing back-to-back shows. Whether or not that's true for everyone, it's not, but you know what I'm saying? You wouldn't be then comparing to everybody else's journey. It's kind of like newbie gains too. Maybe you could take 6 months to grow if you're still kind of new to it and just capitalize. So yeah, I think we're on the same page with that. Just having a coach makes a big difference. It does remove a lot of stress. And you mentioned that you're very empathetic because you've been through a lot. And when you said that, I was really curious what things you've been through on your journey that you think make you an empathetic coach.
I've struggled with depression pretty much like my whole life. That with depression, a lot of times, usually eating disorders will go hand in hand with depression. So when I was a teenager, I know that I struggled a lot with bulimia. I would do aerobic induced anorexia type stuff, but not ever like restricting myself with food, because I've had a problem with food. So I did struggle with bulimia all as a teenager. I did not really realize, though, I guess I just kind of turned to that because I felt like that was just a normal way to control my weight. I didn't at the time. I remember thinking, there's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing abnormal with this. And then, heading into dental hygiene school, getting out of hygiene school. And then I remember my boss, looking in my mouth, and my teeth were all, etched up from years of bulimia. And I think he was the first one that was like, hey, this isn't okay. Like, you need to talk to somebody about this. And I remember I was offended, and it's taken a long, long, long time to get over that. I have not struggled with it, though. I have not purged for probably, 15, 16 years. It's been a very, very long time. However, do I have a binging problem? Absolutely. And I say, do I, because I kind of always, I don't know. I don't feel like I can really compare it to like alcoholism, where you're going to like step up in front of a room and say, hey, I'm an alcoholic, even when you haven't been for a long time. But I am fully aware that if I did not count macros, if I did not have a strong support system around me, if I wasn't accountable to someone or something, would I fall off the wagon and still fall back into binging episodes? Like, probably, because it's a constant battle. Honestly, it's something that you have to really stay on top of for the rest of your life. So knowing that, I always send out an intake form to all of my girls, and I always ask them, have you ever struggled with an eating disorder? Is there anything obsessive that you've ever had in your life? Things like that. And a lot of them do. Like, I would say 75% of my clients say binging. They have binge, they emotional eat. They, and I've been there. I'm there. And I remember when I first found macro counting, I was bodybuilding in the gym, and I would live on chicken and rice all week long. And then I would restrict. I love sweets. Like, I love sweets. Sweets are like, hey, I'm going to pause it right here and put a pin in this and just say right now, pancake syrup is the most underrated condiment of all time. I'm just going to tell you that. It is. Like, it makes everything better. My husband tells me that I'm Buddy the Elf. So I would find myself, like restricting. And then I remember the time exactly when I called my husband, because I was humiliated, and I called him and I was like, I don't know what happened. I just like blacked out, and I woke up and I like consumed an entire can of cinnamon rolls, like 9 bowls of cereal, and a whole box of Eggo waffles. And I'm like, I can't even move, and I don't know what to do. And at that point, he was just like, okay, we have to find something to help this out. So macros helped me a lot with that. It allowed me not to restrict myself. I was able to start working those things in every single day, which is what I encourage all my girls to do. I'm always like, what's a non-negotiable? What is something that you are going to, what's your gate? I call it the gateway. What's your gateway? Like, whatever your gateway is, and you're thinking, I can just have a nibble of that. And then 30 minutes later, you're like in a closet, with a tub of icing, eating it with your bare hands. Like, what is your gateway? And if there is a gateway, then you need to work that in every single day. And you need to make sure you have that in your life every single day, because then after a short period of time, the taboo is going to be removed from that food item. And it's not going to be as like naughty, and it's not going to be as like, okay, I'm going to binge on this. So over time, when you can take every single food item that you binge on and you can somehow work that into your routines, and where oh, it's not a big deal, I can have this today and I can have some more tomorrow, then it helps a lot with the binging episodes. So being there and going through that, going through therapy, going through emotional shame of like waking up and not knowing who to call and be like, oh my God, I just like consumed 10,000 calories in 30 minutes. How did that even happen? And just being humiliated. Like, I know what my clients feel. And even though knowing that and trying to convey that to them, I still have check-ins every week where they're like, all right, I'm here for my lashings. I wasn't good this week. Like, I don't know what happened. I'm so embarrassed. I don't want to check in with you. And I feel like, where have I failed? Where have I failed to make you guys think that I'm going to spank your heinies for this? Like, I've been there. I've done this. I live this every single day. And I just smile and I love on them. And I tell them, hey, you know what? Every day is a new story. Like, today you close the book chapter and tomorrow you open up a new page. You don't look at what happened yesterday. We don't think about what happens tomorrow. Today we start again. And I just want them all to like grow emotionally, because once you grow emotionally and you learn to disconnect the taboo and that crazy obsession with it, it helps to heal the binging process,
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I'm glad that you brought all that up and shared your experiences and story with that, because it is really common, especially in women or in anybody who have had a fixation or obsession or focus on changing their body composition or size or managing weight. Like, it's very common. And then you add into that a lot of co-occurring disorders, whether that's depression, anxiety. It could also be borderline personality disorder, OCD. Like, a lot of these things are coexisting with eating disorders, and it's a very serious subject. And I think it's important when there's physique coaches and health coaches like you who are able to say, I've been there. I'm here to support you. You're not wrong for this. You are not your disorder. You are not the eating problem. And
absolutely,
a lot of people miss that. I think they miss that mark. We tend to blame ourselves for these things. We say, I am a binge eater. I am an emotional eater, rather than I have an issue with my emotions that leads me to coping through food, or I sometimes struggle with overeating because I haven't XYZ. So, or I have struggled with this, rather than naming or shaming. I always say, don't name, don't shame, don't blame to my clients, because it's just, that's not how we do it. And you bring up a good point about macros. And I think I would be remiss to say that macros don't solve eating disorders at all, but it can make a big difference, like you said, with normalization, and something that, and I think what I do, and a lot of people listening do too, but I help people with their relationship with food, their body image, their goals, like every day. So much of what you said is, I'm like, there's hundreds, thousands of women and men who deal with this. And normalization through exposure is pretty much like what you're talking about. It's a form of exposure therapy, and it makes a huge difference. I'm a huge advocate of it, and it can be seen in other ways too. So someone listening, you might be scared to start incorporating, and I like how you coined it, your gateway. But there are many different approaches you can take to normalizing a food, and to just normalizing eating in general, not purging, and purging through whether that's throwing up or whether that's through excess cardio or decreasing your food intake. It's a complex subject, but there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. So if you're worried about this or you're scared, that's totally normal to feel that way. And just know, like, you absolutely can get through it. And I would recommend having someone who's helping you, whether that's talking to your coach about it, hiring someone like me, going to a therapist, whatever it is, but bringing these issues to the table and making sure that you're working with someone who's non-judgmental and who's really willing to support you. Because unfortunately, and I'm sorry, I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but you totally tapped into like my passion, but like, I'm just going to say one more thing, which is, I'd like to see the mental health professionals bridge the gap with fitness professionals. And I'm really glad that you are adding to that, into your repertoire of like, hey, we need to take an emotional stance here too, and a supportive one, because people in the fitness world are oftentimes judged for wanting to change their body or wanting to pursue fitness, whether that's a physique sport or modeling or being an influencer. They're usually judged and shamed and told, well, you'll always have an eating disorder if you do that. You'll always struggle with your body image if you do that, rather than saying, you could struggle with this, but there's ways to still work on it. Like, the problem is not, the fitness or the bodybuilding or whatever. The problem is just how we're adapting to these behaviors, how we're pursuing it. So no, I'm so glad you brought up that very important subject. And you guys, if you're struggling with this, like, please know, and I mean this, like, there are so many competitors out there who deal with this. There are pros dealing with this, amateurs dealing with this, people who want to compete and are turning to competing to deal with this, which is not healthy. I would not recommend that. But just know there are so many people out there, and there are so many ways to work through it. You can get through it. It is very possible. So that's my soapbox.
I do like what you said about pros dealing with it too, because and just think about, like, when we're done with a competition, like, we've done so well. And even with, with my team that I belong to, he is one to, the first person to say he's not going to restrict you. Like, I know the morning, that I went and stepped on stage to win my pro card, I had my normal breakfast, my oatmeal with cookie butter and M&Ms in it. Like, I had my normal breakfast. I didn't restrict, but, you do get into a rut. And then what is the first thing that happens after the show? I mean, I love cookies, I love all the post-show treats. Like, I love it all, but it's like, it's very easy, even, if you think you have control over it after post-show treats, it's like, it's very easy to, like, be like, well, I've been restricted for so long. And then there you are, like, eating a box of donuts and eating like 9 crumble cookies and that, and then before long, here you are right back into your routine again. So it, unfortunately, competing sometimes does, I guess, peer pressure you into binging, especially after a show. And that's, super important that you have a game plan after the show, especially if you have had an issue with binge eating before and eating disorders, that you don't just fall right back into that routine, after your show.
Yes. Competing will not make you immune. It will not.
No.
Unfortunately, like, it also doesn't provide the justification to continue negative eating habits.
No.
There's no running from it. There's just no running from it.
There isn't.
But we can run into it and pick up all
Absolutely.
the pieces along the way and put together a new picture by the end of it.
Yes.
Something else you've dealt with in your life, and I hope you don't mind me kind of shifting gears a bit, but I think this is also a really important topic, and I wanted to hear your experiences and take on it, not just from your personal experience, but also as a coach. I think there's a lot of people who struggle with Crohn's disease and IBS, but they doubt if they can compete or commit to a prep because of this. So how have you learned to manage this and prevent flare-ups, especially around competitions?
I've dealt with it for a very, very long time. Mine shows in digestive problems. I will have some days which I'll have a long period of time where it will be completely fine. And when I say completely fine, like, actually, I'm just going to kind of like skip her right over that. I don't know if it's completely fine or not. The sticky thing about IBS and Crohn's, ulcerative colitis things is there's not really a cure for those situations. You can treat the symptoms, but especially IBS, especially ulcerative colitis, it's like you can treat the symptoms, but you can't really, like, there's not a pill they're going to give you that's going to cure you of that. I have, for the life of me, over the years, thought, okay, well, it's this food that causes it. And then, for whatever reason, I'll go without that food and I'll be like, okay, I'm cured. And then all of a sudden I'll just have a back step and I'll be like, no idea why. I have come through, I do encourage anybody and everybody to go have food sensitivity tests done, because whatever you can do to reduce the possibility of having a flare-up is the best thing for sure. Because mine will show up in severe abdominal bloating. I mean, like, looks like I'm 5 to 6 months pregnant overnight. And that's not good during a prep. It's not good at all. Or it will show up in like severe constipation, which causes me to look pregnant again. So I do know at this point, because I've done a lot of food sensitivity tests, I am very, very sensitive to eggs. I don't eat them. I'm pretty sensitive to wheat, and I am incredibly sensitive to xanthan gum. I know that those things are going to kind of spike me. And now I'm not allergic to them, but I am negatively affected by them. So that being said, Dylan knows that as well. So he will start to cut certain things out of my diet when I get closer to peak week, just to reduce the size, reduce the inflammation, and cut down on the likelihood of a flare up. I am really, really affected also by stress. And if I have a lot of stress in my life, a lot of anxiety, things coming into my life, it seems like I will have more flare-ups. I will have more negative appearance days. And I do my very, very best the week of peak week for sure to keep my stress as low as possible. If there's any way I can get to the location earlier, then I do it, just so I can kind of have a couple of days to just get to know my new environment, find out where the gyms are, have everything just settled. If I am going last minute and running around like a chicken with my head cut off, it seems like it shows up more negatively on stage. So I really try to control my stress. Stress plays a huge impact on any kind of gut and intestinal problems. I think for anybody who's thinking about competing, I would say first off, you need to just start really paying attention to what foods you're eating and what causes your flare up. Not saying that food would cause it, but there are ingredients in certain foods that can cause it to be worse than others. And keep a journal. And this isn't something that you need to do 2 weeks before your competition. This is something that you need to do far, far in advance from competition, and start keeping a journal and just be like, you know what, I ate, I had a carbonated beverage tonight, and then like 20 minutes later, my stomach blew up. Or I had a journal entry, I remember, where I was in a bulk and I was really eating over like a tremendous amount of calories at that time. And it seemed like I was having more problems with my intestines at that point. And when I look back at my journal, I remember writing down, I felt like at that point it was more about the quantity of food I was eating. Like my gut just couldn't handle the quantity I was eating. So I think journaling, taking lots and lots of notes, food sensitivity tests, like I totally believe in them, through a doctor, just get a cheap one from Amazon and start there. Like start eliminating the things that, are going to cause you the problems. There's a lot of people that don't want to, I think, get those food sensitivity tests because they're scared that it's going to tell them that they're allergic to or intolerant or sensitive to something that they love.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell you, when I found out that I was intolerant of eggs, I grieved for like a month, and I was like in denial, and I was like, but I'm a bodybuilder. How am I supposed to have a diet without eggs? Like, what is, I had a funeral for my eggs.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Like they're gone out of my life. And I will introduce them occasionally, because some of my cookbook items have eggs in them. And I mean, I do love eggs, but
any eggs, or even like, or just if it's anything, or
it's
what if
the
it's
egg
baked
white?
in? Okay.
It's the egg white. Now, if it's baked in, it's kind of a less of a problem to me. But if I'm having like egg white omelet, if I'm having scrambled eggs or something, within an hour, my stomach is blown up like huge.
Oh no, that must be terrible.
Yeah. Oh, it is, because I love eggs.
Well, I'm so glad that you brought that up. And I want to hear like what test, because you said you could start with something like on Amazon, but do you have a particular test you recommend to clients or that you've done?
I do. Yes. And actually my boss is the one that recommended it to me, my W-2 boss, and he did it, and he's funny. He's Hispanic. And he was very angry because when he got his test results back, he was allergic to tortillas. And he was like,
oh my God,
I can't be intolerant of tortillas. This is my heritage. And I was like, well, that sucks to be you. And then he recommended it to me, and here I am loving eggs, and that's where it's at.
I thought that
so
there was some
that,
discrepancy where it's like if you eat something a lot, it might be wrong and I might be totally off base, but I thought I remember seeing something like that where it's like some of them can't be completely trusted.
they may not be, and I would not say that it's like the word of God. I would say start there, and then if you try to eliminate those things and you don't see a change, then definitely go talk to an allergist. I think that that's the best option, is that they're actually going to do like a blood test for real and see, what the real problem is. The one that I used that was just over the counter and it was pretty easy to do was the one by Everlywell. And I just got mine off of Amazon. They have a couple of different levels. You can test I think the one that I did tests against 95 of the most common foods. And then the more advanced one is like 250. So I just did the basic one first because I'm like, I'm just going to see what it says. And the things that came back on it, the only reason that I went ahead and jumped towards the elimination of the egg whites was because it said 100%. Like it was like, without a doubt, 100%, this is the problem.
Gee.
And then my next highest one was wheat, not gluten, wheat. And it was like maybe like 70%. So I have tried to eliminate for the majority. Like I did used to eat cream of wheat every morning. I've switched to cream of rice. So I have done my part to eliminate most of the wheat, but I really have seen the biggest difference with the eggs. So just eliminating the egg and then seeing like how it's played out, I do believe that that was pretty legit,
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think it's good that you tested it too. And you can see like, okay, there's obviously been a difference like in how you feel and how you look or how you function. And testing it is obviously important in that process. I appreciate you sharing which ones you might recommend too and how you've gone about implementing that in your life. It can be frustrating, I think, for people when they don't know like what's causing the issue. And it could definitely be a long process to a healthier gut or a more productive gut.
Yes. And it's a never ending battle. And I don't think it's ever something that you can just give up on because it controls your life if you let it get out of control. And I think finding the right doctors to help, working really well. I know I say I like a lot of crappy foods, and I do. I love sweets and stuff, but I really try to follow an 80-20 rule when it comes to my food. I do mostly whole foods. 80% of my day is mostly whole foods. And then I do try to sprinkle in 20% of crap because I feel like it's important for my mindset and for my past history. So, I think eating the whole foods, I try to eat mostly around the outside of the grocery store. I really like I eat a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables. I eat a lot of white meat, anti-inflammatory causing foods. That's what I try to stick with. And I feel like it has, it helps a lot, that with medication that I'm on, and I'm pretty mostly controlled. I do still have flare-ups. And honestly, I feel like most of those are around stress or around alcohol consumption. And other than that, it's pretty controlled. It really is controlled, but it's taken me a long time to figure out what works for me.
Yeah. And I think it's great that you're willing to commit to that time. And you said like you have to start that process early, and there's definitely a lot of learning that goes into that, learning your body and being accepting of changes. Like you said, you had to grieve letting go of certain foods and then find the balance that works for you. You do love cooking, like you were saying, and baking and all these things, and you have your cookbook coming out. How do you, and I've always been curious about this, but how do you plan ahead for various recipes that you make, not just to maintain such variety, but also to like plan ahead for the time maybe it takes to cook it or prep it, and then how you work that in? I'm just wondering how you do that.
Yes, because I have like, I feel like I have less than 24 hours in a day. I'm too busy, and I need 10 assistants and like 10 more hours in a day. So that's a big complaint about clients too. When anybody first starts counting macros, it does take time. You really have to start planning your meals, planning your days. So what we do at our house, I have lots of good recipes that I come up with, that I create, and most of them are just spin-offs of one another, and they're great. They're all wonderful. I tell everybody that I'm like the macro witch of like macro hacking anything. Like, you give me something and you say, man, I wish I could make this more macro friendly. I'm like, challenge accepted. Give me 10 minutes. So I can do it, but it does take planning. We have at our house a routine. I mean, we have a 14-year-old daughter, Kennedy, and she is super busy herself. We see her, we all pass each other like ships in the night. And we don't all eat the same thing. We don't all love the same thing. So what we will tend to do is eat pretty much the same meals Monday through Friday. Like, if we have something that we're looking forward to eating for dinner, then I'm like, okay, we're going to pretty much have this every single night this week, because I don't have the time. I don't have the energy to sit down and make a shopping list for 15 different meals. Like, we pretty much will have the same meal Monday through Friday. And then we use the weekend times to be more creative. So if it's going to be, pizza on the weekends, or if it's going to be enchiladas or something on the weekends that is different than our weekly meals, we go ahead and plan a week in advance. So that's the only way we can have it successful at our house, is I plan a week in advance. And whether we want it or not, that's what we're having for dinner this week, because this is what you told me you wanted on Monday, so you're going to eat it, by God, on Friday. Like, that's just the way it's going to go. I mean, maybe if I had more time to actually sit down and run to the store and grab all of these ingredients, I would. But I do have a lot of staple things in my pantry. If you look through my cookbook, I use a couple of things over and over and over and over, and I keep those stocked. And if my husband is probably like the one, he I don't understand how he like throws his macros together like meal at a time. It boggles my brain. I have to sit down the day before and plan my whole day out for the next day. And I'll be like, what are you eating for dinner tonight? Or what are you having for dessert? And he's like, I don't know. I'll see how many carbs I have left. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You don't know? Like, I don't understand it. But, he'll let me kind of create more fun things for him. But honestly, most of my recipes only take, especially the desserts, like, they only take a few minutes to create and get together and cook. And if you have staple items, then you're good to go. Like, it does not take very long to make those things.
What are some of your staple items, and maybe what's like a favorite recipe that you have in your cookbook?
Absolutely, hands down. I will say my very favorite breakfast recipe. Oh my God. I would say probably my cinnamon roll pancake bowl. Like, it's my favorite, hands down, and it has eggs and sausage in it, and it seems very weird, but it's a vibe. It's definitely good. My favorite entree would probably be my curry, the chicken. Yeah, the Thai curry is so good. And then my favorite dessert, hands down, is the skillet cookie. The monster skillet cookie is by far the best creation I have ever made in my entire life. And we eat it every Sunday. Me and E split it. My husband E, we split it every Sunday. And we sit there and make all kinds of noises when we eat it, because it's so good. It's really good. It's amazing. But staple items, I really think that PE Science is the best baking protein you're going to find out there. I know that First Form is a good, strong competitor, but I love PE Science. I think it tastes good. It bakes up good. It's worth it. I love Kodiak cakes. I think Kodiak cakes of any flavor, they are the base of a lot of my recipes. I like to use a lot of noodle substitutes, because you can mix noodle substitutes, which are basically like either shirataki noodles or tofu noodles, you can mix those half and half with real noodles, and you can't tell the difference between the two, and it will cut your carbs like more than half. So it's a really good hack. It's all about the volume at that point. Like you can get a whole bowl of noodles for like a third of the carbs than eating a regular pasta. So I love that. I love doing anything that is going to give me more volume. I'm here for that. So those are staple items. I love PB Fit. I use that a lot, and I love Greek yogurt. I think that Greek yogurt is a good staple item for anybody's diet.
Totally. Yep. Yeah, so much good choices there and staples like you can really run with and utilize. And I think you make a good point about volume too, where it's like you said earlier, there's a point where a certain amount of consumption is too much and messes with your body. And then there's times in prep where, especially in prep, I should say like in improvement season, I wouldn't recommend too much volume eating because it's just difficult. But in prep, wow, it makes such a difference. Like you said, just even being able to have a bowl of noodles can sustain you so much longer and help you focus because you're not like, oh, I'm thinking about food all the time.
Absolutely.
Well, that sounds so good. I can't wait I'll have to make that cookie skillet because that just got me even more interested.
Oh, Celeste, it's like, it's amazing. It's the best thing ever. Put a little bit of froyo on it and it's amazing. It's amazing.
That's awesome. No, I'll definitely try it. And I have a lot that I want to talk to you about, but you just brought up your family. And you also mentioned that sometimes it feels like you don't have the 24 hours in a day. And that can a lot of times bring up stress and overwhelm. And you've talked about in some posts how in the past stress used to be met with eating and lashing out or retreating inwards. How do you manage stress now?
Hey, do you know a person? I mean, like, you have a guy? I don't know. Like, how do I manage stress? Honestly, I'll be super honest. The way that I manage stress is that I have the most amazing husband in the entire world. He is, and probably like super emotional about it. I'm super blessed. I am so blessed to have him. He is the kindest person that I've ever met. He is very slow to anger. It takes a lot to get him mad, and he loves me like I don't even understand. I mean, I've never seen anybody. I mean, I love him the same, but to be loved as much as I am loved, I'm very fortunate. And he has been the biggest help for me. I know that accountability, talking to somebody, therapy, things like that is definitely good for depression. It's good for stress relief. Some people need medication, and I am not by any means going to sit out here and say, you need to get off your medications, because there's legitimate people that need medication, and it's definitely needed. I was on medication for a really long time, and I haven't been on medication for a very long time. And I have a very good relationship with him to where I can come to him and tell him, I'm stressed, like I'm having a really hard day. And he will constantly refer to it as me going dark. And he will be able to come to me and say, I don't want you to go dark. And because it's like, he'll see me retreat, he'll see me kind of close in or close up because I'm too stressed. And he can kind of, I guess, get the feeling that I'm going in that direction, and he'll just call me out of it. And he has the ability to sit down and just listen and just hug me and just, give me what I need. And it's rare when you're going to find a partner in life that can actually like speak to your love language the way that you need to be spoken to. There's not a lot of people that have the very same love languages as their partners. And I know I do not by any means. And I'm not by any means as good at taking care of him as he is of me. I know. But he speaks to me in the way that I need to be spoken to. And he goes out of his comfort zone to come to my level. And I think he knows at this point that it's necessary, that if he would not do that, that I would go dark. I would disappear. I would, fall off into the abyss and shut down. And that is how I handle my stress, is I have E. And if I didn't have him, I probably would not be able to handle my stress. He does a lot for me. He does a lot for the business, for our coaching business. He's basically my background. He does a lot of my computer work. He does a lot of my helping me write plans and things like that. And he is the one that created my website. He does all of the things that I can't do, and he will let me do those things. But then when I get to a point where I can go to him and I can say, I'm done, I can't do anymore, he doesn't fight me. He just says, okay. And he does it. And he has helped me through every competition. He calms me down. He makes me laugh. So that's the best answer I can give you, is that my husband is definitely who helps me with the stress, for sure.
I love that. I just love that if you have someone that you can turn to in your vulnerable and dark times, and they can bring you out of it. I think there's nothing wrong with that, to have support. Like, we really do need other people to survive and to be our best. Yeah. It's just, that's how things are, despite people maybe promoting that we need to just be completely independent and never rely on anyone. But it's like, having other people can be an inevitable if you create in your life and you foster those relationships. And obviously he is super supportive of you. I actually messaged him before I had you on.
I know. He ran across the gym and he was like, oh my God, Celeste just messaged me.
That's
he's totally
awesome.
fangirling. And I was like,
oh my God, he's so sweet. When you told me he listens to all the episodes, I was like, that is so cool. Like, I just, it's special to have people who are supportive, who want to see you win, who cheer for you, not just when you're winning, but like when they haven't even seen your potential yet, like not tangibly, they just know. It's really special.
Yes, it was amazing to have him there. And when I won, when I went pro at Pittsburgh, I just could not. I was so upset because I went pro and they gave me my card, and then I was trying to run off the stage just so I could get out to the hallway to him, and they were like, no, you have to wait, you have to compete for the overall. And I was just like, oh my God, like I can't stand here, and finally when I was able to go out there, and it's so sweet, he has a little video clip where I guess he was trying to videotape me coming down the hallway, and he was unable because he was like so emotional, and he just had the video like down by his leg, but I could hear all of that he was saying. And thank God some people were around us, saw us like hugging and crying and everything. And in the video he was crying, and he was like, oh my God, baby, I'm so proud. I'm so proud of you. Like, I'm so proud. Like, he just kept saying it over and over, and such a sweet video for me to have. And yes, he's just amazing. He really is.
Oh,
I'm very blessed.
So special. Yeah, I love that. I just think that is amazing. And yeah, it is special to have someone who's there to support you no matter what. And
it is,
especially when competing can maybe bring up anxiety for people about it negatively impacting their relationships. And some people have had that experience with less supportive partners, or partners who experience the burnout maybe like simultaneously. So has it ever impacted your relationship with your husband or your daughter?
It has not impacted the relationship with my husband, other than the fact that sometimes I get irritable just because, food gets low when you get close to peak week. And sometimes when I'm not, sitting there eating the food I love, then I get crabby. But he's very, like I said, slow to anger. He's not someone who really will bite back. So it has not affected us. He's I think he's a bikini pro in his like that's his alter ego. I don't know. So he probably loves it more than I do. And when I was ready to shut my season down, I think he was sad. Like, I think he was like, oh, you know, like he really wanted me to go ahead and go pro debut like right now. And he didn't want it to end. Like he loved it. So with him, no, it has not really affected it much. My daughter, you know, she's 14. She's she's totally into basketball and boys, and she's just like not. She's just like, she posts TikTok videos of me, and she's like, oh my God, my mom, look at my mom, you know, and she's so proud of me.
Nice.
Unfortunately, my daughter has never been to a show. I'm going to try to make sure that that happens next year, but all of my shows have been not local. I have not done one local show to me the entire year. And it would require a lot because she is not, you know, she's at the age where she doesn't want to go sit for, and you know, competing is a lot of hurry up and wait, especially in the NPC. So, I mean, it's for long weekends, it's for long days. And I don't think that she would be happy or enjoy the time if she just went and was hurrying up and waiting all day. She would be pretty miserable. It has caused a lot of uncomfortable stress with my family, which is a touchy subject, but I was raised a very, very strict religion. I was raised Pentecostal, and it's a very restrictive religion, very legalistic, where there's a lot of rules and a lot of standards set. And I never even pierced my ears until I was 28. I never put makeup on my face. I never cut my hair. It's a very covering, you know, set of standards. So my family, and I say my family, it's basically my parents. I don't have any siblings, so they live local to me. They are not that religion anymore either. We're all non-denominational now. But it's hard to grow up that way and be underneath that for a very, very long time. You know, my dad is 70 and my mom is, her birthday was actually yesterday, and she's getting close to 70 as well. And to be raised that way, to live your whole life underneath those standards, even though you may not believe that anymore, it's hard to completely release a lot of things that have been ingrained inside you. So they have not really been extremely supportive of my decision to compete, based on the appearance. And that's it. Like, my mom has a really, really hard time with me getting up in a bikini that, you know, shows most of my body, posting things on social media. She's afraid, you know, that people will judge me, will judge her. People will maybe think that I'm an inappropriate mother because I get up on stage wearing the things that I wear, and that she thinks that they would, you know, people that don't know the industry, that they would look at those pictures and think, well, what kind of a mother is she to Kennedy? You know, she's obviously a floozy. She doesn't care about, you know, her, you know, being an appropriate person. So it's caused me a lot of, I guess, hurt, because I just have the ability to be like, I don't really care what people think. I'm going to do what's best for me. I'm going to do what's best. I know I'm a good mother. I know that this is not, it's not sexual. I think that that's a big misconception about the bodybuilding, you know, the competitions, is that people on the outside, like my mom, are going to look at it and think, like, hand in hand, like, oh, well, there's no difference in you getting on stage competing for a bikini competition and this person getting on stage on a pole. Right. Like, they feel like it's the same thing. And I've tried to sit down and explain to her, you know, no, Mom, this is art. This is body sculpting. This takes a lot of, I mean, this is something I'm incredibly proud of. I've put so much time and so much effort into this, and I'm freaking 40 years old. Like, I'm proud of where I am. And she's just, they both are, I guess, I don't want to say humiliated, but just disappointed, I guess. So I have not had them at any of the shows. I kind of purposely did all of my shows away from home because I just I didn't want the stress. Even though they're not supportive, they would try to be supportive because they love me and I love them. I mean, I have amazing parents and I love them with all my heart, but because we don't see eye to eye, it's created a void. And they would still come to my show. They would still be there because they know it's the right thing to do. And they would, I guess, be there in body, but not be there in mind, or be there in spirit. And I knew that having them there, during these stressful shows, that it would cause me stress. So I just purposely kind of planned things away from home to avoid that conversation. It's, I think, maybe getting to be a little bit better. I think that they maybe are starting to understand, that this isn't just something that is a fad, that, that this is my life, and that I think a lot of their friends maybe have made comments to them about, oh, you should be really proud of her. Like, this is amazing what she's doing. And I think that they're coming around. But like I said before, there's things that are ingrained inside you that once you get to a certain age, it's hard to shake those away,
Yes, that's very true. To cope with the changes or new belief systems is hard when something else is so strong.
It is. So yeah, a lot of stress, but at the same time, they do love me, and they help a lot with Kennedy. They really do. And they are very supportive. They don't always understand. My mom's love language is baking. So they don't always understand when she's like shoving, pie at me and saying, but I love you, here's a pie. And I'm like, but I love you too, but I'm in prep, so no.
Yeah.
She doesn't always understand those things, but they do. They love me, and they're great parents. I'm hoping that this year, I am planning on doing a couple of shows in Texas. And I am hoping that this year, maybe this will be the first time that I can get them to come to the show, and maybe they'll see it a little bit differently once they're there, and they can kind of experience it,
That'd be amazing for them to come to a show. Yeah, that would be so cool.
Yeah.
I hope that they do. I'm glad to hear that it's gotten better, but I know that can still be really stressful, and having two people that you love and care about so much who don't fully understand it yet or at all is always hard.
It is. Yeah, it is. Definitely.
But I know you're definitely not the only one who goes through that or has had that. And I personally haven't dealt with that, and I'm grateful for it, but I'm curious how it's impacted your relationship, like just in general outside of competing. Like, has it made you guys, do you feel like it's created a rift at all in general?
Yeah, I do feel like it's created somewhat of a void. There's a certain amount of time that is required, more than a lifestyle person. When you're a competitor, I mean, even in off season, I'm in off season right now, and I'm still putting forth a lot of time to working out, to training. I never go off my macro plan. Like, even in off season, I'm still on a plan. And, whether my coach decides to let me have, an untracked meal or an untracked dessert that week, or whatever he allows me to do the rest of the time, I'm still on plan. I know that there are a lot of people that do intuitive eating days a lot when they're off season. I don't do that. I prefer the comfort of tracking. Every now and then I will if I'm going out of town or something, but I like tracking is comfortable to me, and I just like it. So I will track still. I do know that it has created a void, like eating a certain way, not just, my family, the way I was raised is we do eat a lot of dessert. I mean, we were raised in St. Louis. It's a big Italian presence there. We eat a lot of pasta, we eat a lot of pizza, we eat a lot of dessert. And I've had to change, a lot of the way that I was raised, the food that I was raised on. So my parents will still eat, the same food that I was raised on. And I've tried my best, over the last, however many years I've done tracking, to try to make everybody in my life aware that we don't have to just make food the center of it all.
Yes.
Like, it's totally okay for us to get together and like play games. Like, it's totally okay for us to get together and just like hang out by the pool. Like, we don't have to just be like, hey, do you guys want to come over and have dinner? Like, we don't have to do that. Like, we can just come over, that's totally fine. And if you don't make a pie, that's okay. Like, it's totally fine if we just bring our own food. It's fine if we just come over for coffee, So that is still, I think, there's still a void there. And it's the time that I have to spend training. And, and my daughter's 14. She's got basketball every night till 7:30. And she doesn't need, she's very interested in texting her friends and hanging out with her friends. And we all hang out together and spend time together, but she's not 5 anymore. I feel for people. I do feel for women who have young children that are trying to compete with little bitties running around at home, because they do require a lot of mommy's attention more. And being able to, go to the gym and train and then make sure you're still on your meal plan and doing all of these things with little kids at home, I could only imagine how stressful that would be. So I am blessed in the fact that, my daughter, and if she's off, she comes with me. Like, she's at the point in her life where I'm trying to start instilling those training methods in her, because I don't want her to grow up and, not have some sort of fitness routine in her life. So when she's not at school and I'm going to the gym, it's not an issue of, okay, well, I'll just skip the gym tonight and sit at home with you. It's either, okay, you're going to the gym with me, or you got homework. Okay, you go home and do your homework, and then I'll be home. So it has caused a little bit of stress with, I think, my parents on that aspect too, because I wasn't raised like that. My parents didn't have fitness routines. They didn't have, macro meals or anything like that they did. We just were a normal middle-class family, and we, didn't go to the gym, and we, ate lasagna on Mondays, and we had pot roast on Tuesdays. We just did the normal things. So it has caused stress just because, and I can only imagine, and tell me what you think. I mean, maybe you're the expert when it comes to psychology. I can only imagine that if they see me grow up completely doing opposite of what they raised me to do, would they think, what did we do wrong? Why doesn't she do what we did? Did we not do the right thing? So why is she doing completely opposite of what we taught her how to do? Maybe that's, I don't know. I've never sat down and really had a conversation with them about it, but we just are so polar opposite on every single thing that we do that, yeah, it does create a void. It does. But at the same time, you love each other, and the time that you do get together, you love each other, no matter if there's stress or not. It's your family and it's your parents, and you love them.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I just love your vulnerability and willingness to share on these topics, because they are.
Oh, really... I'm sure my mom's going to love this vulnerability when she hears your podcast. Oh God.
Oh, well, if she listens, that's awesome. I think
she will. She loves me. And I love her. She's an excellent mom. She really is.
Maybe it will open the door for new conversations that maybe need.
Hey, you never know. Hey, 2022, maybe Peggy's year. Peggy may get up there, and I may get her up on stage. She's going to be doing, the Master 70.
That would be so cool. That would be awesome. Or at least get up there and take a picture with you. That would be super cool to see.
Right.
Well, the thought of, the busyness, right? Obviously, you're in a different stage of your life with your daughter than other parents might be. And you have been, it seems in any ways, that you've been into fitness for a long time. So I'd love to hear more about your background with this and how you got into competing and what it felt like to become a pro so quickly.
Yeah. Oh my. So background, I never stepped foot into a gym until I was 31 years old.
How old are you now?
I am 40. I will be 41 in a month.
Awesome.
So I never stepped foot into a gym until I was 31. I started doing CrossFit, actually. Joined a CrossFit gym in my local area, and did that for a few years until I had a really severe injury, and then I quit. And after that, I realized that I liked being active. I didn't lean out or anything doing CrossFit. I just was able to like do things like movements in the gym, but I really didn't see a big change in my physique. So I joined, I think I went from there to maybe a regular gym for a while, but I was really lost. I didn't really know what to do. Bought a couple plans online and just really, I don't know, just kind of lost. Didn't really like it. Was really used to, because my first introduction to fitness was like group fitness, and ended up going from there to Orange Theory. And I really liked Orange Theory for a long time because it was group fitness and I loved to run. So I was really into that. And then I met my husband, and my husband was a bodybuilder. He works out at the gym. And we found quickly that that was special time for us. Like, it's kind of like, hey, I'll meet you at the gym. That's like our date time. And we would work out together. And we did that for years and years and years. And he has always done my training for me. But the problem was that he was helping me with my meal plan as well, but he basically wrote me a meal plan like a bro. And I lived on like chicken and rice, and that just was not good for me. But he is the one that pushed me into competing. My body started changing a lot. My physique started changing once I started working out regularly with him. And, we were at it for years and years. And then it seemed like we would always go to the gym and people would be like, hey, do you compete? And I would be like, yeah, at Life. And I would just like kind of laugh about it, because I'm like, no, I'm not competing. I'm like, I'm 40 years old. Are you kidding me? So he just basically sat me down one day and he was like, listen, you have all the potential in the world. Like, you need to do this. And I said, I'll think about it. I was more or less thinking it was going to be a bucket list item. The coach that I had at the time, I talked to him about it, and, he was also a competitor in another league, not the NPC. So he was like, yeah, that's fine. I'll prep you. And I really took it seriously. I started thinking heavily about it. I remember in November of last year. So I purchased my suit. That was the first thing I did. Was wow. I put a deposit down on a suit with Maria at Goddess Glam, and put a deposit down on Black Friday. And then my husband was listening to your podcasts already at that point, and he introduced me indirectly to Mia Sanchez.
Oh,
and
yeah,
she's
that's
actually
awesome.
Yes, and she's local here to me as well in Burleson. And me and Mia hooked up, and she was my posing coach. She was my first posing coach, and we started immediately posing, like I think in November of last year. And she met with me, and she, I know, was very afraid because I looked like, I think her words were, a newborn baby horse. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to pull this together in, 5 months, but I'm going to do my very freaking best. And she really was patient with me. She worked with me hard on my posing, and we are still really good friends. And then I ended up just going to the Phil Heath in College Station in April. That show was huge, and I did not know what to expect. I wasn't prepared mentally. It was not prepared at all, and like what to expect. And somehow I took first place in like every
Amazing.
single class that I was in. And then that gave me my ticket, obviously, to nationals. But at that point, I decided that it was time to go a different direction with coaching, and started interviewing some coaches. And I picked Dylan Bear, and Dylan really was the change for me. I mean, he really was excellent. He's just very detailed, which is what I need. I'm very type A. He's very, very detailed, down to the last second. He's detailed. And I trusted him. I think that was what was missing with my last coaching relationship is I don't ever feel like you need to be in a relationship. And this is a good tip to anybody looking for a coach. I don't feel like you ever need to be in a relationship with a coach where you believe in yourself more than your coach believes in you. And I think that with Dylan, he believes in me probably more than I believe in myself. Like he's a lot like my husband in the fact that it's like they see the potential that I have. And he pushed me really hard. So I ended up going to Sacramento with him and tied for the overall with Ariel Barkley.
Oh my goodness.
At Sacramento. I tied her for the overall. And at that point, I got a paid entry to Junior Nats. So it was a week after Sacramento, NorCal Champs. And I think I went in a little bit cocky because I had won 2 regional shows. And I was just like, I got this, no problem. And then I didn't realize, I was unprepared. I did not realize at nationals, like everybody looks like pros. Like there's nobody walking in that, you know, we used to always joke where it's like, sometimes you see girls that will show up to shows and you're like, did you just wake up this morning and decide, I think I'm going to compete in a bikini competition today? Like, did you not prepare? Did you not get ready? Are you not prepared? You know, because there's a lot of prep that goes into that. There's, you know, and at nationals, everybody looks amazing. Like it's so intimidating. Yeah. And I won 8th, which was great. I got
amazing.
First call out.
Yeah.
Yes, but I was so down on myself and I didn't rebound very well from that show. I think emotionally I was just really, really bad. And then me and my husband, we love this, this concept called The Secret. Have you ever seen that program or read?
Law of
yeah,
Attraction.
I love The Secret. Yes, the laws of attraction. My husband especially is really, really big about that. Power words and things. And when we left Chattanooga, like I was really down and just down on myself. And we really just like he honestly started practicing that every day with me. He would post notes all over my mirror. He'd post notes in my car that said, I am an IFBB Pro. The judges love me. The judges are my friends. I am an IFBB Pro. Like he put it all over the place. Anywhere I would look. It was on our whiteboard at home. It was on our chalkboard at home. He would we would just speak it like I was pro. And took me into Charleston. I ended up winning 2nd. So I missed my pro card by 1 spot, but I didn't have a bad mindset about it. And I went home and we regrouped, and 3 weeks later went to Pittsburgh. I honestly can't tell you how I feel since I become pro because it's all very surreal. I know that there's post-show blues, you know, that definitely takes place because it's like I went through 5 shows really, really quickly.
Yes.
My season was short. It was from April to July, and that's a short season to do 5 shows. And my body was tired and my mind was tired. And I know that I needed a break, but I don't know. I don't really have an answer for you about like how I feel. I'm over the moon. Like I can't even believe it. And my husband will tell you if we go out and I have too many glasses of wine, the first thing I do is I go into the bathroom and I'm like, I'm a pro.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But I can tell you this, and this is a little sad. And I can't remember. I saw somebody post this and I was like, oh, like I have all of my little medals or my trophy or my tiaras. They all sit in my cardio room and I have them on the little shelf right there in front of my cardio. So that and my vision board, so I can look at that during cardio and focus my mind. And it just dawned on me and I'm like, that was probably the last show I will ever win. Like that's legit. Like you think, okay, I'm 40 years old. Like, and for sure, like I have big aspirations. I'm going to go in and I'm going to like do the Masters up big, but it's like, as far as like going into the Open, that may be the last tiara I ever put on my head as far as like the Open goes, you know, and that's kind of sad, but you have to like regroup your thinking and like completely change now and have different goals. And that's what Dylan has helped me do. Is like, okay, what are our realistic goals going into this? And what are we shooting for? And what are, and it's exciting. It's so freaking exciting. I'm in off season now, so I don't have a lot of, I guess, motivation, direction, things like that, because it's just like, okay, like he told me yesterday, because I'm having problems with my body image. I'm putting on some adipose tissue, I'm trying to bulk up, and he's like, just put on a big baggy shirt and shut up. Just go to the gym and just, focus more on lifting heavy and like growing your butt and growing your shoulders and the things that we need to grow. So I know that once prep starts for the pro debut, that it's going to hit me, and it's going to be real, and it's going to be super, super, super real. And I guess I'm still just like celebrating the win, and I'm still getting my coaching, going, and getting my coaching business going, and working with my clients and things like that. So it's like, I'm so busy that I haven't had time to sit down and really say, what does this mean?
Yeah. I've never heard that before, but you're right. Like there is that maybe a process where you do never win a show again. Like there will potentially be a time where you never do. Like we can never depend on or believe that anything is inevitable, right? And I guess that also goes for winning.
Right. Yeah. And you have to be able to reprioritize what's important. I have one of my prep clients right now. She's the cutest, Sarah. She's like, I'm going to win. I'm not coming just to show up on the stage. I'm here to win. And I'm like, I love that. I love the sass. I love the confidence. Like I believe you because you're so, believing in yourself. I believe you. But it's like, even that with me, that's kind of how I am in my head when I'm stepping on stage in the past, is like, I'm here. I'm visualizing the win. I'm visualizing my friends calling my name, my friends out there. They're going to call my name and my number, and then we're going to celebrate together, But at this point, you have to, you're a totally different league. I mean, I don't know what to expect. I don't know what's realistic as far as goals go. So I'm excited for the pro debut. I'm excited to see where I land, how I, match up against everybody else. And I'm excited. This is, 40 has been the best year. I can't wait to see what 41 brings. I'm excited.
That's awesome. So you definitely are going to compete next year. That's the plan anyways. Are you going to be competing in open divisions or just masters or both?
What the plan is at this point. I know, I feel going to Chattanooga, I had to compete in the open. There were not masters divisions at junior nats. So competing in the open and still getting first call outs, I felt like, hey, you know what? I'm 40. I'm competing against these girls in their 20s. If I'm able to get first call outs, then I'm somewhat still competitive in the open, I think, for the next couple of years. So plan is to do a few of the shows that I can do the open, but then I want to really hone in on master shows as well. So I have a soft place in my heart, obviously for Pittsburgh, just because that's where I went pro. And I would love to be able to go back and do, the masters, the pro show there next July. I know that that's kind of one on our radar, but I do have a couple planned to do the open. If nothing else, just to go fangirl backstage and take pictures with Laura Lee and and all of my idols, I'm like, they're going to be like, ma'am, I'm sorry, please leave. Oh, but I'm a pro. It's fine that I'm taking selfies with all these people. It's fine.
You're like, they let me back
so here. I have credentials, bro. So, I mean, yes, I definitely do have plans to do the open, at least for a few more years until Dylan says, hey, listen, sister, you're just not competitive anymore in this realm. So I kind of leave that up to him and his expertise.
Definitely. Yeah. And why limit yourself, or limit your potential? Might as well have fun, have the experience, especially now as a pro. There's so much opportunity to do that. It's obviously you still have to travel, but it doesn't cost to compete, so it's
right.
It's a great opportunity, and I'm excited to see the rest of your journey unfold. And I'd love if you could now share your best advice for someone who's never competed before but would like to, and then someone who's on their road to pro.
Yeah, someone who never competed before. Hire a coach. That's my best advice. Get started very, very early. Do not wait until the last minute, and do your research like on your shows. Like, I feel like hiring a coach is like the best advice, honestly. I mean, I feel like going in blind and not really knowing what to do. Competing is such a fun experience. It really is. And it's not for everybody. It really isn't. But if you have a bad experience because you were not prepared, then I would hate for that to be the taste in your mouth you have about the competition world, you know? So I think start early is the key. Like, start very, very early. It's never too early to start posing. Never. I have clients that are not planning to compete until July, and I have them posing with me now. I think that it's never too early to start posing. Posing is definitely the hardest part of competing. If you can get your nutrition under control and you can get your training down, then posing is the hardest part. So be prepared with the posing, and be realistic too. I mean, be realistic with your expectations. If you have a lot of fat to lose, and don't rush it. Don't rush the process. Like, if you need to not compete, you know, in the show that you were planning to compete in and you're not ready yet, that's okay. Like, there's other shows. Like, it's not the end of the world. Like, it's the fact that you put it out there and said, hey, I'm going to compete, then you have put that out there. So it doesn't mean that you have to stick to the same show. Road to Pro. I would love to sit here and say, be patient and like, don't think it's all going to happen so quickly, but dude, it happened so quickly. So I'm very surprised. I'm very blown away by the fact that it happened the way it did for me. I don't feel like that's the norm. I feel like it was just stars aligned. It was my time. You know, judging is very subjective. It depends on who shows up for you to be judged against that day. So somebody with their road to pro, I mean, I think listening to your coach, if your coach tells you it's time to grow, then don't keep pushing your body. Take the time off. You know, my coach this time told me, hey, it's time. We don't need to go right into your pro debut. We need to take some time. We need to grow. And it was the best decision. It was the best decision for my health. It was the best decision for my mind. So it is, I know, sometimes disappointing, especially if you think this is my show. This is my show. I really thought that in Charleston. I really thought Charleston was my show. And when I got second, it was like, oh man, you know, but it allowed me some time to regroup and go back and do better in Pittsburgh. And I think my best advice for people on their road to pro is just, if that's what you want, you need to go for it. Like, don't give up. Don't just keep taking second place, or don't keep taking third or fourth places as that's what you are. Don't let that define who you are, because it is very subjective. It is based on who shows up that day. And it may or may not have anything to do, honestly, with like if you've improved or if you haven't improved. So just keep trying, and eventually the stars will align and it will happen.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing your advice and just being so open throughout the whole episode. And yeah, of course. I mean, I had so much fun just preparing your episode because you are so open online, and my favorite episodes are always when people are really willing to share. So I was excited. Aww. And yeah, and you really did share so much, and I'm just so grateful for that. And I want other people to be able to maybe message you after listening or tag you, or reach out about working with you too, and then in the future buy your cookbook. So give us the details on how they can do all that.
And I would hope and pray that is the one thing that if, you know, I'm dead and gone, that people are going to say, Christy was so approachable. Like, I always want to be very approachable. I hate having people message me and if I don't message you back, like that gives me anxiety. I can't sleep at night. Like, I always want to be very, very approachable no matter what. So yeah, my Instagram is at christybrown.ifbb pro. I am also on Facebook, Christy Brown. My website is fearlessphysiques.com. And yeah, that is my contact info. My cookbook is going to be available through my website and then also through Amazon. And it will be an ebook and print copy.
Awesome.
So
and I will
all
put
details
that link
you
too.
need. Yes, and all details for posing, coaching, prep, anything is on my website.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I will put all the links to those social medias, cookbook, website, all that in the show notes page, you guys. That's always at celestial.fit/podcast. If you're listening right away, the episode's going to be at the very top of the page. If you're listening in the future, just scroll down to the category section. It's all alphabetized. So you'll just find Christy Brown and then click that and you'll be able to see all the show notes. That includes episode timestamps. So if there's something you heard her talk about, let's say it was the food sensitivity testing, just go back and you can find the exact timestamp for that and you'll be able to listen. So along with summaries, resources, everything. So be sure to get all that in there for you guys, and appreciate you guys listening every week. It means a lot. Or if you're new here, thanks for hopping on to listen. Really appreciate the support. And Christy, thank you again for your time.
Thank you so much. It was so much fun.
It was so fun. I just love talking to you, and to everybody listening. I hope you have. I'm glad that you feel that way, because I try to do my best, make it easy for you too.
No, you are. You're great. And we are total fans at the Brown house.
Woo, thank you. Well, I appreciate that. And again, all you listening, hope you have an amazing rest of your day, night, or morning, wherever you are in the world while you're listening to this episode. Just make it